A major oil spill in McClain County is being blamed on another case of a horizontal well running into an older vertical well. The spill killed fish and ducks on a nearby pond and left a small creek soaked in crude oil.
Bill Mitchell is a former member of the Oklahoma House of Representatives. He lives now in rural McClain County where he owns land with horses and other livestock. About 6 years ago, an oil company leased some of Mitchell's land and drilled a vertical well. But just days ago, Mitchell just happened to drive by that well site and realized something had gone very wrong.
There was fluid flowing out of all these tanks back here. Looked like quite a bit of oil with it and a lot of water. And then I walked around and saw where it had headed down through here and went down to the creek. Went down to check my pond and looked, and it was completely covered in oil.
The spill site is just off Highway 76 in southern McClain County. The small pond was a common watering hole for deer, ducks, and other wildlife at the site. But now both the creek and the pond have been fouled by hundreds of barrels of crude oil and frack water.
You can go around the side, and there's about 1.5 feet soaked in just heavy oil all around the pond, and probably over 1/4 mile up the creek, maybe closer to 1/2 mile as the creek runs, but it's saturated with oil down in it.
Plastic bags sit on the south end of the well site full of pads that were used to soak up some of the oil that was found at the well site. Mitchell says large trucks came in and hauled away oil that was skimmed from the top of his pond, but there is still a lot of cleanup work to do. The creek that runs into his pond is very sandy soil and soaked up much of the crude oil and frack water.
It is tremendously hard to get up through there. It's going to be most difficult to clean up because you're either going to have to do dozer work and remove dirt, or I don't really know how it can be cleaned up. I suspect I'll have this to live with years from now.
Just how the oil companies involved plan to fully clean the area and return the creek and pond to full use, plus pay for the damages, all remains unclear. As we left the scene, the storage tanks were still leaking.
I looked at it a while ago. Water is still flowing out of this at this particular time, getting down where the pad's at.
Drillers are required by the Corporation Commission to notify other well operators in the area days in advance of plans to begin hydraulic fracturing. That to give other operators a chance to take steps that may protect their wells from being fracked into.
I guess the question I would have is how it flows from over there here and why this well wasn't notified so someone could be taking watch on it. And you'd thought it had been checked on because of the cold weather and possibility of freezing.
The company that owns the lateral well that is suspected of fracking into the vertical well on Bill Mitchell's property is Eagle Energy Exploration of Tulsa. We contacted the company for comment and was sent a voicemail. No one has ever returned our call. We attempted to talk with the crews working on the well site, but they drove into a restricted area and closed the gate behind them, ignoring our requests for information. The cleanup crew at the pond reportedly rescued one duck from Mitchell's pond and cleaned it up. The fate of other ducks, though, is not clear. Bill Mitchell says he watched as at least one duck tried to paddle away from the oily mess, only to get covered up even more and then slowly sink beneath the water.